Story 1. Migraines are something my sisters and I experience, often accompanied by nausea and throbbing pain. Those who do not suffer from them often dismiss it as a minor headache. In reality, it can be overwhelming at times, and it can occur multiple times a week. Treatments such as Botox or stronger medications may be necessary. Story 2. Bipolar disorder. One day you feel invincible, and the next day you know for a fact that you are worthless. The mood swings are challenging, but then there is the sleeplessness, paranoia, anger, and psychosis. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Story 3. Obsessive-compulsive disorder is not just a quirky trait or a preference for being organized. It can be a debilitating condition. Story 4. Shingles can cause permanent, debilitating pain, and if it occurs on your face, it can result in blindness. If you have had chickenpox, consider getting a shingles vaccine. It is important. Story 5. Eczema. For those who suffer from chronic and severe presentations, managing it can feel like a nightmare. Constant itching leads to weeping, irritated open wounds that are so painful that even a breeze feels like being sliced open. Skin flakes off, causing bleeding and fluid leakage throughout the day. Sleep becomes elusive, and showering is a dreadful experience. Stress and lack of sleep induce nausea, making it difficult to eat. The social implications are significant. Although I do not have a history of suicidal thoughts, before starting medication for my eczema, I felt close to considering ending my life if there seemed to be no hope. Story 6. Measles in unvaccinated individuals or in developing countries can be deadly. Additionally, severe brain infections such as encephalitis may develop in 1 out of every 1,000 cases, with a high risk of lasting impairment. Story 7. Anxiety. The more you try to cope, the worse it gets. People start treating you like you're broken just because you're not as social or normal as they are. Over time, it doesn't just stay anxiety. It starts to feel like obsessive-compulsive disorder, attention deficit/hyperactivity disorder, and a whole mess of other issues all tangled together. Story 8. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is not just being easily distracted or lacking focus. It involves poor executive functioning, rejection sensitivity, impulsiveness, sleep issues, and emotional dysregulation. It is more challenging than most people realize. Story 9. Polycystic ovary syndrome. If you read about polycystic ovary syndrome or talk to most doctors, you will basically be told that it causes acne, excessive hair growth, and can make it harder to become pregnant. However, for some people with polycystic ovary syndrome, it can be literally debilitating and disabling. My condition is now well managed with medication, giving me a good perspective on some symptoms. Weight gain despite eating very little that led to hospitalization for malnutrition, constant fatigue, severe anxiety, daily insomnia, migraines for over 10 days a month, joint pain rated between 4 and 6 on a pain scale most days, balding, agonizing and very heavy menstrual periods, and obsessive cravings for sugar. This does not account for all the dangerous consequences it can have and the long-term effects of weight gain. From a quality of life perspective, unmanaged polycystic ovary syndrome can be absolutely devastating, and almost no one takes it seriously. Story 10. Inflammatory bowel disease, which includes Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, is more than just a stomach ache or a sensitive stomach. It involves going to the bathroom more than 10 times a day, being unable to eat out, and struggling to function at work unless you are close to a restroom at all times. This condition can lead to significant weight loss, fatigue, and weakness due to the body's inability to absorb nutrients, and it may result in the need for multiple surgeries. Story 11. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and autism, for that matter, are very debilitating conditions that affect all aspects of life. Many people mistakenly believe that these conditions simply mean being a little quirky. Story 12. We need to reconsider the name attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, as it impacts much more than attention span and energy levels. It affects memory, planning skills, organizational abilities, and motivation, essentially everything required to function in society. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder can leave you feeling paralyzed, as you internally urge yourself to take action. Yet, you find yourself mindlessly scrolling on your phone instead. Story 13. Chronic stress affects every part of the human body, mind, and spirit. Mental and emotional stressors trigger our fight or flight responses dictated by our survival-focused brain. The brain tells the body to release hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, which are survival mechanisms meant to provide a short-term burst of physical energy so you can escape danger or respond quickly to threats. However, chronic stress keeps us in this heightened state constantly. Many negative health effects, such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and autoimmune disorders, are caused by chronic stress. Story 14. Obesity. As a former very obese person, now just obese, it's a world of difference for my health. I am working on achieving a healthy weight. The implications of being overweight cannot be understated. I had hypertension, prediabetes, heart and breathing issues, along with numerous health concerns that were extensive. Every aspect of my health was affected by being obese, including blood pressure, mental health, sleep apnea, and susceptibility to life-threatening diseases and conditions. I cannot emphasize this enough. Weight is a significant issue and needs to be addressed before it's too late. Story 15. Chronic fatigue syndrome is often dismissed as laziness or burnout, but it is a disabling illness that can leave people bedridden for years. Many of these conditions are invisible or slow to show their full impact, which is why they are often overlooked or misunderstood until it is too late. Story 16. Not a condition per se, but having a doctor who doesn't take you seriously can be deadly. In 2010 and 2011, I went to my general practitioner saying I felt off, out of breath, exhausted, and kept getting canker sores. I was told to sleep more and lose weight. I weighed 150 pounds, which was not amazing but not bad enough to make me exhausted. Finally, I went to my gynecologist and she was concerned enough to take some blood. It turned out my hemoglobin was 3.9, my iron was undetectable, and my vitamin B12 was extremely low. I have an autoimmune disorder that my general practitioner was willing to ignore. Story 17. Multiple sclerosis. My immune system is constantly attacking me. Every illness lasts for weeks, even a cold. I lost my eye. Story 18. I'm going with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It affects a lot more people than you might think, and it can be debilitating if you have it severely. Story 19. Sleep apnea is something most people consider a slight annoyance due to loud snoring. However, it leads to a cascade of problems that can result in serious systemic issues, including heart failure and stroke. Story 20. Anorexia is a serious condition where individuals often believe they are overweight, even when they are extremely thin. They may refuse to eat or may purge after eating small amounts of food. This disorder can lead to severe consequences, as I witnessed when someone I knew tragically died from it. Society's pressure to be thin and beautiful can contribute to this mental illness, making it difficult to convince those affected that they are not overweight. Story 21. Urinary tract infections in children and the elderly can be deadly for both groups and can cause severe symptoms of other illnesses. In the elderly, they can lead to dementia and may progress to sepsis and kidney infections. Story 22. Fibromyalgia is often misunderstood, and there is almost nothing that can completely stop the pain. There are good days and bad days. On the good days, one will still be in pain. My partner has it, and every day is a gamble for us. Will the pain be too much to do basic things? Will the pain be just dull enough for him to go about his day? He is the strongest person I know, and I love him more than anything. I wish his chronic illness was taken more seriously by his doctors, some friends, bosses, and, of course, his family. There is hope. There are medications, dietary changes, and coping skills he can practice to help manage the pain, brain fog, and feelings of guilt. But that doesn't mean it goes away. Story 23. High cholesterol has no symptoms until your arteries are clogged with plaques, and your heart can no longer handle the stress. Story 24. Non-functioning thyroid. The medication improves symptoms, but there is still daily brain fog, fatigue, weight gain, anxiety, and depression associated with it. Story 25. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is not just about hypermobile joints. It encompasses a multitude of minor issues affecting most major functions of the body, such as vision, gastrointestinal health, and neurology. Additionally, individuals with this condition may be more prone to spontaneous vascular events in the brain. Story 26. Endometriosis, epilepsy, celiac disease. postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and migraines are just a few examples. Most conditions are often worse than they appear from an outside perspective. It requires more empathetic imagination than many people can muster to truly understand. Additionally, there are varying degrees of pain and discomfort, so even those with the same condition may not grasp how much worse someone else with the condition might be experiencing it. Story 27. Oral allergy syndrome. I have been allergic to nearly all raw fruits and vegetables my entire life. There have been periods when my symptoms were worse or better, but usually my mouth just gets itchy, and sometimes I develop hives on my skin where the juice touches. I also notice some swelling in my skin when I peel oranges or chop vegetables. A few years ago, I hadn't had watermelon in probably a year, but I decided to have just one piece and accept the itchiness. Unfortunately, I went into anaphylactic shock and had to go to the hospital. The same thing happened with bananas and mangoes. I never took my allergies seriously until they impacted me in this way. Story 28. Dental abscesses can be life-threatening due to blood sepsis, which is not a good way to go. Make sure to visit your dentist regularly. Story 29. Tourette's is not just, haha, you randomly say curse words. It involves constant sore muscles from tics, a feeling of losing control over your own body, and physical and mental fatigue from the need to move continuously. There is a persistent premonitory urge and attention from strangers in public. Additionally, it is challenging to encounter people who think you are faking it because you don't look like someone who would have Tourette's syndrome. Story 30. Restless leg syndrome, also known as Wilks-Ekbom disease, causes nightly discomfort and lack of sleep, significantly impacting quality of life and the ability to function. Story 31. Hyperhidrosis can significantly impact people's lives. Many individuals report that it has made socializing and being out in the world unbearable. I have encountered numerous distressed individuals with this condition who have expressed feelings of despair, even contemplating suicide. It can be quite demoralizing and often takes control over one's life. Story 32. Skin conditions like eczema and psoriasis are autoimmune diseases. They go beyond your skin. Your skin may disintegrate, feel intensely itchy, bleed easily, flake, and cause constant pain. Additionally, you experience exhaustion and internal inflammation because it is an immune system disorder, and your whole body is attacking itself. The effects are most visible on the outside. There is also scoliosis. Even mild back pain around the clock is difficult to manage and greatly limits what you can do comfortably. A literal twisted spine is incredible to endure. Story 33. B12 deficiency. For the last 8 months, I thought I was slowly dying or at least convinced I had multiple sclerosis. Still not 100% sure it's not that. I lost the ability to walk on some days, experienced pins and needles, numbness and weakness in my arms and legs, confusion, and the sensation of smelling and tasting things that aren't there, along with chest pain and headaches. A severe and chronic lack of vitamin B12 leads to the coating on your nervous system being deteriorated, and once it's really bad, it can cause all these symptoms with some damage being irreversible. Story 34. I was expecting to have 1 or 2 conditions in this thread, but it kept going. There are many more competitors than I anticipated. It's time to place bets on which one will get me across the finish line the fastest. Story 35. Based on people coming into the emergency room who had not taken their medications because they felt okay, there were cases of hypertension and diabetes. Story 36. Anemia. I recently received an iron infusion for my chronically low iron levels, and it has changed my life. I didn't realize how sick I was until I started feeling better. I have more energy, my heart rate has improved, my skin is clearer, and my mind feels less foggy. The benefits keep increasing. Story 37. So far, all great answers. I see gout, hypertension, migraines, endometriosis, rheumatoid arthritis, asthma, urinary tract infections, and diabetes. I will add sciatica, herniated disc, and vertigo to the list. Story 38. Diabetes affects many other organs, blood vessels, vision, and the body's ability to heal. Story 39. My adult child suffers daily because of this. They can't do anything. Even standing up feels like a hopeless act. Story 40. I had Epstein-Barr followed by years of fibromyalgia. It took all my energy and strength for the rest of my long days. Story 41. Fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. It is impossible for some people to understand that 2 to 3 hours of moderate work can feel like an intense 12 hours of hard labor. Some people sleep for the entire day afterward just to recover. Story 42. Chronic pain, regardless of the cause, can significantly impact your life, can interfere with eating, sleeping, functioning, and enjoying life as you once did. Additionally, it can lead to various health issues such as high blood pressure, increased heart rate, obesity, depression, and anxiety. If you take pain medications for relief, the side effects can often be worse than the pain itself or may not be effective. You may feel dependent on healthcare professionals or pharmacies to manage your medication, fearing hospitalization if you go without it. The constant struggle with pain leaves you exhausted as your body works overtime to mitigate the stress it places on your heart, brain, and other vital organs. You must plan your life around the unpredictability of pain, the weather, and your doctor's appointments or medication refills. Spontaneous weekend getaways become difficult because you cannot predict whether your pain will flare up during travel. The highlight of your day may simply be returning home and lying down, even after significant events like your daughter's wedding or your son's little league game. This experience profoundly changes life and affects every moment. Even when you are not consciously focused on your pain, your body responds by elevating blood pressure, breathing rate, and heart rate. This is just the beginning of how drastically my life has changed since developing chronic pain. Every aspect of my life is permanently influenced by this condition. Story 43. We are the millions missing, often unable to leave the house. There are no treatments and very little research is being conducted. The suicide rate in severe cases is quite high. It is listed in the International Classification of Diseases, 11th revision, as post-viral fatigue syndrome. Story 44. Most of the time, people underestimate how severe allergies can be and how quickly they can escalate, especially if they do not have the same type of allergies or do not have a family member who is affected. Story 45. Morning sickness affects nearly every woman during early pregnancy, but some may experience severe symptoms that can be life-threatening. My friend had to take medication every 4 hours, so she had alarms set all night long. If she missed a dose, her condition would worsen, and she would end up in the hospital on intravenous fluids until she stabilized. Story 46. Chickenpox. My brother had it in his mouth and throat and could barely eat. Adding the potential for shingles later in life, it is much better to be vaccinated against it. We were kids in the 1990s and did not have that luxury. Story 47. Altitude sickness can be serious. I was part of the problem. I'm young and healthy, and when hiking in Peru, I suddenly couldn't breathe. Felt like I was being suffocated. I thought I was being dramatic, as everyone feels a bit strange at high altitude. Fortunately, my partner took me to the hospital. My pulse oxygen level was dangerously low, around 85, and I was starting to turn blue. Could have caused lasting damage if I hadn't seen a doctor when I did. I was on oxygen for 12 hours, and we booked an emergency flight back to sea level. Do not ignore these symptoms. Story 48. Asthma is often the subject of jokes in the media. An asthma attack doesn't end the moment you use your rescue inhaler. You have to endure that feeling and wait. People ask why I still wear masks every day. Even my own family, including the medical professionals among them, treat me as if I'm a conspiracy theorist. I want to ask, do you know what air hunger feels like? Story 49. Back pain can be incredibly frustrating, and no medication seems to alleviate that burning ache. It's difficult to get comfortable or sleep, and there's a risk of developing ulcers from constantly taking ibuprofen. It's just awful. Story 50. The inability to process some vitamins can cause nerve damage, brain damage, mental problems, and more. Story 51. Endometriosis is often misunderstood as just bad period pain. In reality, it can cause organs to stick together, leading to chronic pain that can be as severe as a heart attack. This condition can also affect the ovaries and has been found in various parts of the body, including the brain and lungs. In Australia, 1 in 10 women are affected by it. Story 52. Neuropathy, even when managed correctly, can limit your ability to move and the autonomy we all cherish. Arthritis presents similar challenges. Story 53. Lymphedema is challenging. Mine, caused by breast cancer treatment, flares up with stress. Exercise helps, but I am unsure what other job I can do besides my relatively sedentary position. Compression sleeves, drainage pumps, and body image issues make it difficult. Story 54. Retinal detachment is a serious condition. Once symptoms start, you have only hours or maybe a day before sight is lost or at least seriously impaired. Story 55. Narcissism, with social media overtaking our culture, has made it common for people to zone out when others start talking. Story 56. Anorexia is a mental illness with the highest mortality rate, yet people often perceive it as a trivial issue related to teenage girls. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.